Have you ever imagined living through the worst moment of your professional career in front of millions of people? That's exactly what Yuki Tsunoda felt at the Singapore Grand Prix. And while one driver was fighting chaos on the track, behind the scenes, an even bigger battle is brewing, pitting four-time champion Max Verstappen against one of the FIA's most controversial rules for the future of Formula One. A rule that could forever change how drivers face the hottest races on the calendar. Stick with us to understand every side of this story. For Yuki Tsunoda, the Singapore GP was a total disaster, and it all started on the first lap. He himself described the experience as the worst first lap of my life. Starting in 13th on soft tires, the strategy was clear: attack. But what happened was the complete opposite. Tsunoda was swallowed by the pack, dropping to 17th place in a matter of seconds. He told the press that everywhere he tried to go, in every corner, there was a car blocking his path. There was simply no space. That disastrous first lap sealed the fate of his race. With his soft tires wearing out quickly and stuck in traffic, he was forced into an early pit stop, which destroyed any chance of salvaging a good result. In the end, he finished a lapped 12th. At a time when his F1 future is still uncertain, performances like this carry a lot of weight. He admitted that even though the car's pace was one of the best he's had in his Red Bull career, the terrible start made a comeback impossible. He said, "I'm sure there's something I could have done better. That for sure made my life very hard afterwards." And speaking of making drivers' lives difficult, let's get into the big controversy of the week. The FIA is determined to introduce a new rule in 2026, the mandatory use of cooling vests for drivers in extreme heat races. The measure is a direct response to what we saw in Qatar in 2023, a brutal race where Esteban Ocon actually threw up inside his helmet, and Lance Stroll reported he was losing consciousness. Safety, of course, comes first. But the solution the FIA came up with hasn't pleased everyone, and its main opponent is none other than Max Verstappen. Verstappen was firm. He is completely against making it mandatory. He said he didn't even use the vest in Singapore and doesn't plan to because he believes it should be a driver's choice. He understands the safety argument, but counters by saying there are other priorities, like the pit entries at certain circuits. For Max, the problem is the system's design. He doesn't like the tubes running across his body pressed by the seatbelts. He argues that in the tight F1 cockpits, there's barely any space for the cables, and the cooling system, which uses dry ice, loses its effectiveness in 15 or 20 laps. After that, in his words, you have hot water, or tea. His opinion is clear. Some drivers like it, some don't, and it should be a personal preference, not forced upon them. This is one of those complex debates with valid points on both sides. On one hand, the FIA is trying to prevent dangerous scenes like those in Qatar from happening again. On the other, a four-time world champion is defending driver choice and pointing out practical flaws in the proposed solution. That's why your opinion is so important to us. To make sure you don't miss any chapter of this and other major Formula One stories, support our work with a like and subscribe right now to Formula News USA. By subscribing, you ensure you'll get analysis like this, always with the hottest behind-the-scenes information. And speaking of participation, we really want to know, whose side are you on in this fight? Let us know in the comments and tell us what city you're watching from. It's awesome for us to see how far our content is reaching, and since our channel isn't monetized, every single comment is crucial. It tells YouTube our community is active and helps us grow by showing this video to more F1 fans. In the first part, we saw Max Verstappen's strong opposition to the mandatory cooling vest. But he's not the only one with a strong opinion on the matter. George Russell, who besides being a driver, is also a director of the Grand Prix Drivers Association, GPDA, also weighed in. He has a more balanced view. Russell admits the current solution isn't perfect, especially because you can only truly test it in a race environment. He used the vest in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia and was happy with it, but he acknowledges that in a race like Singapore, which is much hotter and more humid, the dry ice melts much faster, reducing the system's effectiveness. The interesting point Russell brings up is that the teams themselves are already working to improve cockpit cooling. He revealed that his team, Ferrari, identified serious issues with hot air leaking into the car, with temperatures exceeding 140 degrees Fahrenheit in some races. The solution? Moving a few electronics boxes and hydraulic lines that run at 250 degrees from near the driver's feet. Small changes that, he said, had a massive impact on the internal temperature. This shows that the issue of heat is complex, and maybe the vest is just one part of the solution, not the whole thing. So why is the FIA so inflexible if the technology isn't perfect and there are other ways to mitigate the heat? The answer is simple and goes beyond driver comfort. The Federation sees this as a matter of safety and, more importantly, the long-term viability of the sport. The FIA's central point is to avoid a catastrophic scenario, having to cancel a Grand Prix in the future because the weather conditions are simply too extreme to ensure safety. For them, all the effort to develop and implement the vests will be worth it if it prevents a single race from being canceled. The FIA, through its single-seater director Nicolas Tombazis, accepts that the current systems aren't perfect, but he shifts some of the responsibility to the teams, suggesting a certain tardiness from some in developing and implementing their own devices. And here's a crucial detail. It was the drivers themselves who, after the chaos of Qatar in 2023, demanded immediate action from the Federation. Tombazis was clear. The drivers themselves were very critical and demanded some action. He mentioned that medical studies indicate that maintaining a high core body temperature for extended periods can cause lasting health issues, not just dehydration. Faced with an overriding scream to fix the topic, the FIA acted. The initial search was for a high-tech solution involving heat exchanges and refrigerant pumps, something quite complex. But experiments in late 2024 led to the current philosophy, a simpler system with ice that gradually melts. They know it has limitations, but it was the fastest and most effective way to meet the driver's demands. The huge variation in the system's efficiency between teams, some last 15 minutes, others for nearly a full race, likely explains why driver opinions are so different. A driver with a system that works well will have a completely different view than another whose vest turns into a heater mid-race. To solve this, the FIA has classified the technology as an open-source component, meaning all teams have access to each other's designs. The idea is that no one tries to gain a competitive advantage from it and that the best solutions can be copied and improved by the entire grid. The FIA knows that comparing the cooling vest to the halo or hands device is controversial. Nicolas Tombazis from the Federation mentioned that in a meeting with the drivers, when he brought up these other innovations, the response was immediate. Surely you realize the halo is different to the cooling vest. And obviously, the level of safety impact isn't the same. No one would say the vest is as crucial as a helmet or the halo. But the FIA's logic is built on a historical foundation. The sport has only become what it is today, with cars doing 220 miles per hour being relatively safe because of the accumulation of dozens of small and large improvements over time. The vest for them is just one more brick in that great wall of protection. And to reinforce this argument, there's no one better than a driver who felt the effects of extreme heat firsthand, Esteban Ocon. After suffering in Qatar, he has become a strong advocate for the measure. He countered the criticism with a very strong and realistic argument. He said that historically, every new FIA safety measure faced resistance from some drivers at first, but in the end, they all came around. And he brings up a point that few talk about, the driver's mentality. In his words, if a driver has been sick all night, vomiting, and he's dehydrated, he's not going to go and tell the FIA that. He's going to race. And that's where the vest becomes a safety element. If it can help that driver from fainting and crashing into others, then yes, it's a safety issue for the entire grid. The FIA believes it's possible to reach a point where drivers are both comfortable and safe, without having to choose between one or the other. The goal is to have both. And with the mandate coming, the motivation for teams and manufacturers to improve the technology will be huge. So this discussion is far from over, but the Federation's direction seems very clear. And while this battle takes place behind the scenes, on the track, another impressive turnaround has been unfolding. We're talking about Red Bull, which has made a spectacular resurgence in the final stretch of the championship. After a difficult European leg, where Max Verstappen scored only 2 podiums in 8 races, the Milton Keynes team has won 2 of the last 3 events, once again becoming a real threat at the front of the grid. McLaren still dominates, but Red Bull is back to causing trouble. Team principal Laurent Mekies made sure to give credit to the entire team, who worked tirelessly to unlock the car's potential. But he highlighted a key piece in this machine, Max Verstappen. Mekies praised the four-time champion's sensitivity, saying it was Max's insistence on exploring different avenues that guided the engineers in the right direction to finally find a path that unlocked more performance. This shows that Verstappen's value to the team goes far beyond what he does behind the wheel. He is an active and crucial part of the car's development. And the scariest part for their rivals is that Red Bull doesn't seem satisfied. Mekies has already said the team isn't looking back and wondering what could have been, but looking forward. He confirmed the team has a good flow of updates and has found different ways to set up the car, resulting in a competitive package on most tracks. And the line that put everyone on eye alert was said over the radio to Verstappen right after the race in Singapore: "We've made a step forward, and we know we have more coming." This indicates that even with the major regulation changes approaching, Red Bull will keep pushing and bringing new parts for the 2025 car until the very end. An aggressive strategy, while other teams are already starting to focus entirely on next year. This new phase for Red Bull, with an aggressive development strategy, also marks a new era in the team's leadership. With Christian Horner's departure, Laurent Mekies took charge, and the dynamic with Max Verstappen seems to be excellent. Max described the new boss as very honest, a guy he gets along with very well. He likes Mekies' direct approach. However, Verstappen made sure to honor the past. He emphasized that the achievements of the Horner era, especially the emotion of winning his first world championship in 2021, are memories he will cherish forever. It's a new strategy, a new moment, and while he's excited about the future with Mekies, the respect for the journey that got him here remains intact. That focused and mature mindset is the same one he brings to the track in the title fight. Despite closing a significant points gap to Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris in recent races, Verstappen is taking a cautious tone. When asked if Red Bull is now officially in the championship battle, his answer was surprisingly pessimistic. He believes that for that to happen, the team needs to improve even more. In his view, the result in Singapore, where he finished ahead of the McLarens, doesn't reflect the true performance reality. In his words, "Lando was just stuck behind me. He was much faster." Max explained that as soon as he made his first pit stop, Norris was lapping much quicker, a pace he wouldn't have been able to match. He was blunt, saying that if it had been a track with more overtaking spots, Norris would have passed him and disappeared. For the four-time champion, McLaren is still the benchmark, the car to beat. This cold analysis, even after a great result, shows just how focused he is on extracting the maximum from the car without getting carried away by individual wins. And in a gesture of great sportsmanship, Verstappen made sure to congratulate McLaren on winning the Constructors' Championship. He called the Woking team's work fantastic and said they fully deserved the title. He recalled the tough seasons McLaren faced years ago and called their recovery remarkable. He concluded with a line that serves as a lesson for the entire paddock. It's a lesson for everyone that everything is possible. It's the mentality of a hunter who, even on the rise, acknowledges the strength of his prey and knows the battle is still long and hard. And so, Formula One heads into a thrilling final stretch of the championship. On one side, a champion McLaren, but one that has seen its lead shrink. On the other, a resurgent Red Bull with a sharper-than-ever Max Verstappen. Is Max's realism just a strategy to take off the pressure, or is McLaren's advantage still too big to overcome? Your opinion on this fight is what we want to hear most. Comment below who you think comes out on top. As a non-monetized channel, our community is everything. Every like, and especially every comment, helps our channel grow and reach more F1 fans like you. It tells the YouTube algorithm that we're building something special here. So please, if you enjoyed this deep dive, subscribe to Formula News USA, share it with a friend, and let's get the conversation started. Your support means the world to us. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.